Hi Shagun.
Good evening, sir.
Hey, hi Shagun. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell me, how is it going, Shagun?
Sir, I already started right now, so not much going right now.
Okay. May I ask you to drop this, sir, and we can call each other by our names. So I'm Samir. You can call me Samir. I'll call you Shagun.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Good. So tell me something about yourself, Shagun, before we continue our conversation.
Sir, I'm a mechanical engineer
Okay.
in 8th semester right now.
Okay.
I like to design product, so I started with AutoCAD
Okay.
and some product modeling. During lockdown, I got interested in UI UX. So then I started about courses about UI UX.
Okay. Are you working anywhere at the moment?
No, sir. I have one job letter of cognizant.
You have a job offer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Which is good.
Cognizant. Yes, sir.
So you are joining Cognizant as what? Like, are you joining as a UX designer?
No, sir. It was a campus placement as
Okay.
an associate analyst
All right.
position.
Okay. But your aspiration is to become a UX designer.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. If you have a certain aspiration, Cognizant will definitely give you
Yes.
opportunities to pursue that aspiration. And if that is what you want to do, UX designing, they will definitely guide you in that. So tell me, how can I help you?
Like, how can I connect with the user?
Okay, before we go to that question, let me ask you something. So, what kind of formal education have you had in user experience design? Formal, informal?
Sir, I have done Coursera course of Google certificate, Google
Okay.
Coursera course.
Okay. So, you are aware of the user centered design method? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
or design thinking, which is another process that we follow,
Yes, sir.
right? So, typically, how it will
Yes.
work out is when you are working on a project, you will be part of a team, let's say. Okay, now since you are an aspiring UX designer, definitely you will not be leading the project. There will be someone else
Yes.
who will be leading the project, so he will manage most of the client stakeholder stuff, engaging with the client. But at some
Yes.
point, like as a part of the UCD process for any given project, once you understand, you will have these workshops with the client, and as a part of the workshop you will be communicating with the business stakeholders, people who represent what the client wants. There will be SMEs, subject matter experts, who will be there to guide you. See, because what happens is the project, whichever project you work on, it is not necessary that you have a technical background in that project, right? Somebody might be designing
Yes.
a retail shop, somebody might be designing a hospital, a product for a hospital. So we are not doctors, like we are not
Yes.
the customer salesman who is at a retail store. So there is a lot of technical knowledge that is required for a given domain, and the SMEs will help you align with those understanding, right? So there will be these workshops that will be organized at the start of the project, and the aim of these workshops will be so that you, as the vendor, like Cognizant is a vendor for the
Yes.
client, right? You as the vendor will get a more clearer understanding of what the business objective is, what is it that is important for the business, what is the objective of this particular project, whichever project you are working on. So there is an overall objective of the business. Now this is what,
Business.
let us say your client is say CNN, okay, as an example. So CNN has its own business objectives, it has its own mission and a vision, what it
Yes.
aims to do. So that is one objective, and the other is the ask of the project. What is this particular project about? Okay, so you would want to understand what the client wants. Okay, so once you have some understanding of what the business wants, if I have to summarize those workshops in one word, you have to ask questions. Okay,
Gosh.
you have to ask questions so that you have a clarity in your mind. You know exactly what the client wants. You know who
What
the
the-
users are. You know what their user wants. Correct? So asking the right questions is a UX designer's job over here. Okay? You will be supported by the business analyst. Typically in a Cognizant project, there is also a business analyst whose job is to understand the business, analyze the business requirement. Your job is to understand the user and the user
Users.
requirement. Okay? But you have to work hand in hand. You cannot work separately, right? I mean, you have to align with the business requirement, and you also have to understand what the user requirement is. So when you have these workshops that are happening, and you will be asking those questions, the business analyst will be asking those questions, some of these questions. The aim is to get a clearer understanding of what the project is about, and one of those questions would then be, who is your target user? Like from your perspective, you would be asking, who is the target user? Correct? And it is not going to be a straightforward answer. It's not going to be A, B, C, D, right? They will tell you something, and then you have to take that question and ask another question on top of that to get a better understanding of that user, right? They might say, the user who's going to use this application is the television anchor. Taking the CNN example, is a television anchor. But then you might want to elaborate on that. What do you mean by a television anchor? I mean, typically, what is the education background of an anchor that you hire for an anchor? Correct. What is his demography? Right? Is he generally in the range of this age group to this age group? Right. What is his educational qualification? Correct. So, what kind of environment does he work in? Like we know from our experience,
Yes.
personal experience, that they work in a studio. They will.
Studio.
What kind of setting do they work in? Right. They might work in a setting where they sit across a desk. There is a screen behind. There are a couple of cameras, 1, 2, 3. So all that, every user will have a different demography. They will have a different, their educational savviness, their experience
Perspective view.
levels, their views. So you
Needs.
need to understand your current user in that project by asking questions. Okay? And when you ask these questions, typically when you have your workshops, it will be with like a business representative, okay, from the client side, or maybe there will be a business group or a change management group or some team that represents what the business wants, the client wants, but they are not the users. It's very
Users.
important, right? So what you are getting right now is pseudo information. It's called pseudo research, or it's called
Sure.
a second hand information, right? You're not getting first hand information. So you should use this pseudo research information, okay? Because without understanding who your target segments are, what their demography is, it will be difficult for you to plan proper research. Okay. Then once you know, okay, there are these 3 different user groups, and within these user groups, you might understand that, let's take television anchor as one user group. Maybe the person who is coordinating the entire presentation, the entire television program, in the background, there is somebody sitting with an equipment who is planning
Yes.
the camera views, who's planning the storyline, who's planning what is presented next. So there is a coordinator somewhere in the background. He's another
Coordinator.
user group, correct? So every
Yes.
user group will then have their own variations. Is there a variation based on gender? Is there a variation based on experience?
Education.
Is there a variation based on, I don't know, I mean, there could be a different parameters by which those variations can
Rank.
occur. Okay, so you will need to understand who those users are, what are those variations, and then you will have to plan out that we need to talk to these users, the real users.
Surveys.
Yes. Now, whether you do an interview or whether you do a survey, it will depend on the timelines involved. It will depend on whether you have physical access to those users or not.
Users.
So maybe the users are working in some remote locations, and maybe they don't have Zoom laptops to do a video connection, right? So maybe you may not get access to a user, but you may get access to, let's say, over a phone call or over a Teams or a Zoom call, okay? Or maybe it might be important that you go there physically. You go in that physical environment where they are working. I remember one project that we did where we were doing these interviews for a mining industry. Correct? Now I could always have a
Yes.
conversation over the television, over your Teams call. But when you actually go there in that mining environment, you understand the temperature in which they are working, right? You understand the
Right.
dust that is there that impacts the work they are doing. You understand that they are wearing these gloves which are so thick that it might be difficult for you to actually operate a particular
Operate.
UI interface. So
Yes.
these real life environmental conditions can be understood only when you are there on the site. Okay, and I'll be very very pragmatic with you. You will not always get an opportunity to do a contextual inquiry, to actually go to the user and talk to him.
True. Yes.
You may not get that opportunity. With COVID, most of the conversations were over the
Remotes.
over the video
Phone call.
Correct. So that is how you will do it, and it again depends on again which project you are working on, what kind of team you have. You might have a team where there is a dedicated UX researcher, or you might have a team where you don't have a UX researcher and you have to do that the same role of a UX researcher. It will be more like a hybrid role, right?
Okay, sir.
So hopefully to answer your question in terms of how do you connect with your user, it will depend on a project to project, and it will go through some phases, right? You will start with understanding the business, understanding the demography and the user groups, planning out who are these users. Now typically for you to talk to a user, who does the planning, right? Like who procures the user, who says these are the 5 users you talk to. I mean, you as a designer may have defined that you want to talk to a news anchor who is of this age group and this demography. You can define that, but who is that actual person, right? You don't know any person who is of that demography, right? So there will usually be somebody from the client, okay, who will be able to coordinate within, let's say somebody from the client side will have access to, these are our 20 television anchors that we have, and this is the criteria that the UX designer has given us, and these 5 people fit those criteria. Okay, so they will then help you coordinate a meeting, a time slot
With them.
with them. So you don't have to worry about more about resourcing or recruiting those users. There is usually a project management team or somebody from the business change management from the client side. They will help you coordinate that, but you will have to drive it as a designer.
Sure.
You will have to drive
Yes.
it. Yeah, you will have to tell them what you want. Okay.
So, any book which help you in career?
Sorry.
Sir,
come
any
again?
books? Sir, any books which help?
Okay. I do understand why you are asking that, because you're starting this thing, this career. So there are a lot of books. There is a very famous book by
Don't. I get what
you know that one.
Wow.
There is a book by Steven Kruger. Maybe what I'll do is I can come up with a couple of good reads, and I'll ping it to you separately, and we can then you can then use those books. So yeah, I'll let you know those.
So I'm working on project for my Telegram community. We have a group of people who like to trade in crypto.
Mhm.
So for helping them, we are creating a news app.
Okay.
If you
news
don't
app.
mind, I can show you.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please.
So it was the home screen.
Okay.
So there are many categories like altcoin, blockchain, fundings,
Mm.
and news.
Okay.
And it is for the price.
Okay. So
This was the feed.
okay.
Yes, sir.
No, go ahead. Continue.
So this was the feed which we will use API to automatically connect and get the news updates
Mm-hmm.
for swiping up
Okay.
and for sliding right for reading article in the app only.
Okay.
So I have also added this translation,
Interesting. Very interesting.
and this is for yeah. Then this is for setting, personal data, and everything all about.
Mm-hmm.
And this tab was saved for the saved news.
Okay.
So what changes can I make to make it more user friendly?
I think you have nailed it, right? I mean, this has all the you have typically covered what you wanted. What I would, rather than commenting on the UI itself, you know what, Shagun,
Yes.
I would suggest, I would ask you, how did you come to this UI? How did you derive this particular UI, right? Because see, there is a
Yes.
tendency for many new UX designers to be sort of influenced by Behance and Dribble, and then they will see some nice UI configuration.
No,
And
no.
no, it's okay.
It was more my idea. The
Okay, okay.
swiping up, swiping right is almost common in every app.
Could you share with me, not the UI? The UI actually looks nice. Okay, so I won't really comment on the UI per se right now. Okay, there are a
Yes.
couple of points that I can still suggest, but even if I do that as a second option, the first option I want to ask is, what is the process that you followed to define this UI?
Sir, actually, we have a team of 2-3 peoples.
Yes.
One is my friend. He remind me what he need. So I
Okay.
have talked to him around 2-3 hours. What categories he needs, what prices and everything he
Yes.
want.
Yes. So it is
After that,
he sort of represents your client, right?
yes, sir.
He is the client. He has a
I can say that
requirement.
is my client.
He has a requirement with you. So this conversation that you had with him is very similar to the workshops that you will
Yes.
have with your client, where you will ask them questions. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now my point is, right now you are designing yourself as a single person, but
Yes,
when
sir.
you will eventually be working, right, with Cognizant or with other companies or with clients, you will
Yes,
be working
sir.
with a team. Okay.
Yes.
So how do you document? How do you ensure that what you understood and what your friend told you, okay, the other people within your team also understand the same thing?
So I have another example. I prepared for Microsoft Design Challenge.
No. Let me come back to your current story before you go
So
to the
I
other one.
don't have any written documentation about this one.
Okay, and is there any analysis that you have done? First of all,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
can you show me that analysis that you have done?
So survey, I have to find the survey link. I have actually a Telegram community.
Okay,
We have around 4-5,000 people there.
okay, good.
So I have talking to about 3-4 person and have conducted a survey over there.
Mm-hmm.
By their requirement, I get all the information and I created this homepage and everything.
No, I understand that, and I'm really happy when I see your design. There are a lot of good things. Okay, I will give you a couple of points of comments, but it is very important that we understand that we don't jump the gun, right? We don't jump the process. Okay, like whenever you design any interface or any UI, any application, that application will typically have an information architecture. Okay, what is the information architecture of this application that you have designed?
Sir, actually I don't have any
Exactly.
printable
That is
documentation
what
about.
I'm trying to drive at. Now you were able to create this because of two reasons. Because of, let us say, you understand your friend and his requirement, and also you have some experience. You might have seen other crypto apps.
Sir,
and
actually me and my friend run that community, so I understand what the user
exactly. You understand the user, right? What I'm trying to
Yes.
help you, Shagun, with is, this will not always be true. When you are working for other clients, you may not always understand the product. You will have to build
Yes.
that understanding, and you will have to work with a wider audience, with a wider set of stakeholders. Correct? So there is a
Sir,
certain
understand.
process. If you follow that process, then you can come up with a better result. Okay, you for example
Yes, sir.
need to understand who the user groups are, what is the, if I ask you a simple question, right, what is the
Yes.
what is the need of that user who is reading your application, that the user who is supposed to use this application, what is his primary ask?
Sir, actually he get news about the news of any crypto NFT
Correct.
or any drops.
Correct.
So he cannot miss that.
Correct. But the important bit is, the first bit is what, the next bit is why. Why would the user want to get that information? Okay, if you have been following me and some of the posts that I have written on LinkedIn,
Yes.
it is easy to find out what the user wants. Ask someone what do you want, he will tell you मुझे ये, I want this, I want that. Correct? Why do you want that?
So
Okay.
to get maximum profit from the crypto.
Exactly. So whenever we understand the why behind every what, it will help us prioritize what information is more important. It will help us, is some of these features less important, like as an MVP, like a minimal viable product, should I start with this, should I include something or not include something. So do that analysis. Okay, if you build an information architecture, it helps you understand the relationship of one block of information with another block of information, the parent-child relationship. So when you add new features, making that change in the IA, the information architecture first, helps you do the analysis before you actually build the screen. See, building a screen takes time and effort. Developing it takes more time and effort.
Yes.
Correct? But making those changes on an IA or on a low fidelity paper prototype or even a Figma prototype does not take much time, right? So
Yes, sir.
the idea is to understand who the user is, empathize with the user. That's why we say empathize with the user, right?
But
Obviously, you know your user. In this particular instance, you have been working
Yes,
with
sir.
your community for a long time, so you know your user. But that will not always be the case. You will have to follow the process. Typically, what I have noticed, especially in companies which have less UX maturity, okay,
yes.
what they will do is they will say, oh, this is the requirement we have got, start designing the screens. Can you come up with a design by tomorrow or by the end of the week? Something
Without
like that.
research and
Without doing any research, without doing any analysis, without understanding what the information architecture is, without prioritizing information blocks, they will directly start with this thing, which is the difference between a company which is just starting out and a company or like a freelancer
with the experience.
and a company which is, say, charging millions of dollars for doing a product of similar level.
Product.
Correct? Because then it gives you a better quality output. Anyways, if you can go back to your screen, I might want to just give you a few comments. It's
Okay.
obviously I'm doing something like an heuristic evaluation without having a clearer idea what the user is, right? So I'm actually jumping the gun here. But if you just publish this and show me, so let me just see if I can come up with something. Just keep the screen where you are.
Right now,
Yeah, so what I see is you have got these current Bitcoin rates for
Yes, sir.
Bitcoin and ETH and stuff. Okay, then you have got some snippets of latest news horizontally
Yes.
scrolling. So there will be some logic that you would have placed in identifying what should go in the top list. Maybe it will be based by the time. Okay, let's
Yes,
assume
sir.
that. Then below you have some of those
categories.
yeah, grouped by categories. Okay, then you have got, okay, when I look at the text, right, crypto week at a
Yes.
glance, Bitcoin drops, everything is title case. If I see this,
Yes.
Okay.
Which one? This one?
no, below. So the under BTC you have got crypto
Yes, sir.
week at a glance, right?
Yes, sir.
Just give me a second. Let me charge my MacBook.
Okay.
Let me just charge this stuff. All right. Okay. So one thing I noticed was your text is in title case.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the title case text is good if it is more like a title. But let's say crypto week at a glance might still make sense. But Bitcoin drops below 40,000. Okay, fine. Everywhere you are calling it a crypto week at a glance. You're repeating that block.
Sir.
Is it because there are other kind of stories which have a different title?
Sir, it will be different stories.
It will always be different stories, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then it says, then it will tell you it will give the time and it will tell you how long it takes typically to read that
Read.
message. All right. Okay, this is good. Then the navigation at the bottom, right? You have got feed,
Yes, sir.
saved and setting. Currently it appears to be
Settings.
disabled. it looks like it is disabled. So the styling has to be
Yes.
changed. It should not be that faded gray because it looks disabled, right?
Okay.
BTC, ETH, BSc at the top. These are acronyms, correct? They should not be in sentence case. You understand what I'm saying? BTC.
Sir. Yes, sir. ETH.
They're not acronyms. Sorry, my bad. But do you think that is how they are currently referred to, BTC, or would it be better represented as BTC in full caps? I'm just checking. Gaming.
So BTC in full caps.
Yeah, probably. Okay. If you click on open any story, can you open any story?
Yes, sir.
Now, if your title was in title case, your body text definitely should not be in title case. Correct?
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yes.
actually, this is your feed, right?
Yes, sir.
But if I look at this feed, it shows me only one story at a time. If I have to scroll it, then it probably will show me the next one. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Which is not very evident. When I look at this, I was first of all, a feed should give me an affordance that there are 1, 2, 3 stories in line, which tells me that yes, I can scroll and I can see the next one. It's only
So,
when
sir, I should add some title with scrolling down, something like that.
no, what I'm saying is this one story took almost the whole page, right?
Oh,
Can you have at least 2 or 3 stories visible up front, which tells the user that there is this story, the next story, and then there is something else beyond it. So automatically there is an affordance that I have to scroll to see the rest of the story.
okay, sir. I got it.
Yeah, maybe
So,
you
like
can,
Instagram.
like Instagram, like any thing where you have a list of feed, right? And then when you tap on it, then that's when you get the entire all the text, right? Right now you have got this.
Swipe right.
Yeah, you can tap on it or you can swipe right. That's all right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if you do that, can you show me that full story now?
What title case is the?
Yeah, the title case is something. The copy is something you have to work on.
Yes.
This is your full story, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, what I would suggest here is, you had an image in your story earlier which is missing in your full story. Now, obviously, your full story should have everything in it, including that image. Correct?
Okay.
Right? Again, your body
Yes.
text is not correct. Secondly, I think everything else seems to be fine. I have a back option to go back to my story, which is fine. Yeah, and
Yes.
probably the I don't know, this is taking up your entire screen. I mean, your status bar is actually hidden when you are using the app. So any
This
particular,
one.
the status bar at the top.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so typically a status bar is always advised to be displayed at the top. The only time you might take it off is when it might conflict with the, like you're doing a game, right? You're doing gaming. So when you're doing gaming, you would prefer not to see the status bar at that point of time, right? You want to focus entirely on that content.
Yes.
But when you are reading an application, when you are reading a story, it is fine to show the status so that you can see what the time is. You can see your battery strength and all those things. So I don't think that should be there. Secondly, you might want to also, whether you have done the color contrast checks, right? If you had done the color contrast check, you would have realized that this gray tone that you have for home
Yes.
and save does not work, right? It fails on accessibility.
Yes.
You are aware of accessibility?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So at least AA level of accessibility has to be done.
So, okay, I will change that.
Yeah, check that, validate it so that you know it should be correct. Personal data, settings, activities, referral code, FAQs, dark mode. I think all this is fine. Yeah, this is good. So you have done most of it. I think it is just a minor correction that you need to do over here. Correct?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. On the whole, I think this is good. But typically, when you do a project like this, you would want to document. Most important thing is documenting it, because you are not working alone. You're working in a team, and you need to communicate what you are designing. See, you're going to work with Cognizant, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you cannot work as if you're a single designer. You will typically have to create a design system, You will have to create your style guides, your information architecture, your all these stuff, because you're going to communicate with a team. Yeah, you need to learn and progress in that. But on the whole, I think the application was good. Just the IA also looked good. Okay. Only thing is that you did not document it. You did not.
Okay.
You had it in your
Sir.
mind. You had it in your mind, which is there.
Yes,
which is
sir.
good. Yeah.
I've already told the developer about everything on a call.
Correct.
Because he is my friend too.
Exactly. But then when you are working in a real-time project, it doesn't work like that, right? You will not be doing a one-to-one conversation with your developers.
So I have another project which I have document all the thing.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
So I can show.
Yeah.
So like this one is documented
All right.
with problem statement, user research,
Mhm.
interviews, surveys, persona, brainstorming, solutions.
Okay. Can you go to that persona?
Yeah.
Can you go to that persona, please? Let's start with
Yes.
that. Okay. Can you just zoom in a little bit more so I can just focus on it? So if I may ask you, how did you
Yes, sir.
derive this persona?
Sir, it's persona actually about me. I created this app about me, and then later asked with my friend about the surveys. Actually, I was struggling to find anyone which can help me about user experience and user design.
Okay.
So I think that there should be some community or app which we can communicate with each other, so they can help whenever I need them.
Again, the one of the most common mistakes that designers do, and I do understand that you are also one of the users in that user group, right? But
Yes, sir.
you should always base your persona on research data. You have to talk to other people, maybe of the similar user group, and then document that. Okay. So the tendency to do it yourself, that I know what problem the user faces, correct? That tendency
Yes, sir.
is very, it's not wrong, but it can lead you on a track that an application that works for you, not necessarily
Yes,
for
I
everyone.
can understand about that.
Okay. Secondly, I have also noticed that everywhere you are using title case. So I don't know, you will have to understand typography. Where does capitalization matter? Where sentence case matters? Where title case matters? So you have to think about that. You cannot have everything title case, right? There has to be some
Yeah.
level of hierarchy in how information is presented. And yeah, I would have
So
loved to
for-
see I would have loved to see the information architecture also,
So,
the IA.
this one.
Yeah. That was the user journey. Can I see the user journey? I thought it was the IA. Can you just show that slide? Can you zoom in a bit closer? So another issue that I wanted to identify is your contrast ratios are all wrong. Okay, that light pink text against a light or a medium pink background is difficult to read for most users. Not most users, but at least users with accessibility needs. See, remember, you are a young guy. Okay.
Yes.
But a user who might be, say, 50-year-old, he will not have the same clarity of vision that you have. Okay, something that works for you may not work for the other person. So that's where accessibility comes into picture. Okay.
So I will work on about color
Okay.
contraction and
Okay. Can you just go back? Can you go back on the screen? I wanted to make a very important point here. So what you have shown over here is not the user journey. What you have shown over here is an equivalent of the sitemap, or I might still say the information architecture, but this is not the user journey. Okay, so your understanding of what a user journey is needs to be updated. If that makes sense. Okay.
yes.
A user
sir.
journey is what does the user do to achieve a certain goal? What are the different steps that he passed through, and at each step, what kind of issues, pain point does he have, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, my point is, you need to work on your
Typography.
on that typography. You need to work on your color accessibility. You need to work on your following the process. If you create something without following the process, you might your design will be influenced by what you think the user wants and what you think this kind of app usually is. Okay, it is very important for a designer to be unbiased. I hope you
Yes.
understand what I mean by unbiased.
Yes.
Okay.
Unbiased.
So I hope you have learned something in this
Yes.
conversation. I'm just conscious of the time. Maybe another 5 minutes if you need to ask something before we can then call it a day.
Sir, after correcting everything, we will conduct a new session about 1 week or 2 weeks.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, see, it's not about correcting what you have done. Okay, it's about understanding how to do it the right way. Okay, as long as you understand doing it the right way, the end result. I'm not going to comment on your product per se. I hope you understand, right? I mean, I cannot do it because I don't know your product. It is very simple,
Sir.
right? I can give you some tips by just saying, oh, these are some very obvious mistakes. But as long as you have followed the process, you have understood what the user wants, you have validated your design with those users, okay,
Yes.
then you are on the right track. Right, Shagun?
Okay.
We will definitely connect, but not for the purpose of saying whether my product is now correct or wrong.
No,
not
no,
not
sir,
for that
about
purpose.
new
We can
things,
definitely connect so
learning new
that
things.
you improve your understanding of UX, and I'll be more than happy to connect with you again, but not with this aim of reviewing your same
No.
product again.
No, sir, it's not about
Yeah.
when we're learning new things.
Correct. Absolutely. So I hope you learned a couple of things here in
Yes,
this
sir.
exercise. I'll tell you why I say yes to have this kind of a communication with you, because you are not the first person I'm doing this with. I've had a similar connect with couple of other designers, aspiring new designers. Is because I as a designer did not have this opportunity. When I was learning, I had to literally learn the hard way, like literally go through books, literally make mistakes, and over a period of time, I learned what it meant to be a UX designer.
That time there was no software available to.
Yes, we did not have YouTube at that time, and I did not have mentors available to guide us, in that sense. But then, yes, most my best wishes to you, so that you and others who want to take benefit of, or rather get into UX designing, if you guys can improve, become better UX designers, I'll be more than happy to do my bit of, what do you call that, squirrel's share of contribution in your progress. So
Journey.
yeah, in your journey, yeah. So yeah, Shagun, it was nice talking to you. Hopefully we will connect again, and I'll see some more progress in your journey, and
Yes.
maybe sometime maybe when I'm back in India at some point of time, we might meet, or
Get
maybe over a
meet.
conference, something like that. All right?
Yes.
All right then, Shagun.
Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Samir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.